One of the most life-changing moments I had was when I was incarcerated and I got sober and I got clarity and I started hearing that good voice again. You know, the voice from childhood, God's voice, your conscience, always telling you to be a better person, do the right thing. It's always within you. For me, I had been disconnected from that voice for so long because I was altered on drugs and alcohol and because I had trauma and stress in my life. And I couldn't hear that voice any longer. I was just constantly doing things to numb myself or to seek pleasure. And when I got incarcerated and I got that sobriety under my belt, I started to hear that voice again. I started to feel something turning within me. It was like this passion, this energy. It was incredible. And I remember recognizing that if I had just listened to that voice all those years ago, I wouldn't have been in that cell. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Crane. Thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to share, subscribe, do your best to support me, man. I really appreciate it. Want this message to reach as many people as possible. And I got a good one for you today. We're going to dive heavy into the mindset, really some spiritual warfare stuff, right? Because when it comes down to it, it's all about how you make decisions every day. And one thing that you could start to do right now, I want to prompt you, right? I want you to think about every single day, how many decisions you make, probably thousands. And I want you to ask yourself, are these decisions I'm making purpose-based and purpose-driven decisions or fear-based? What you'll start to recognize is that most people who have goals or want to make change in their life, they want a better life, they start facing resistance. And that resistance comes in the form of fear and self-doubt. And if you start to have awareness around how you make decisions, you'll recognize how much of your day-to-day life you're making decisions that don't serve you. Decisions based on instant gratification and pleasure, decisions based on fear or doubt or worrying about being judged, and how little of your decisions are actually purpose-driven. Because when you want to change your life, you got to get to the point where 99.9% of your decisions every day are moving you forward towards a bigger, better life, a purpose-driven life. Now, in order to do this, you need to be super intentional, highly aware, and you have to have courage. Because the bigger the mountain that you're climbing in life, the harder it starts to get. As you get closer and closer to this summit that you're trying to reach, there's going to be more and more pressure, more and more variables, more and more stress, more and more adversity. But also something really cool happens is that you climb higher in that mountain, meaning your goals and your journey through this life, and you do get stronger. And the higher you climb, the more conviction you have in your heart about yourself and what's possible. But I can't help but think, how many people get to the end of their life and they didn't accomplish anything meaningful? They look back and they just realize they didn't live a life that was really worth living. Like they'd give anything to do it over again. You know, that's going to be most people's fate, unfortunately. And I wrote something down the other day I want you to think about, and I want you to share this as well. Imagine as you're dying, realizing God was always there, whispering in your ear, telling you exactly what to do, to live a purpose-driven life. But instead, you chose to ignore it and listen to fear, doubt, and temptation of the devil instead. Think about that. Most people know who they want to be and the change that they want to make. But when it comes time to actually take action and create that change, they listen to the devil, the fear, the doubt, the temptation, the I'll do it tomorrow mentality. One of the most life-changing moments I had was when I was incarcerated and I got sober and I got clarity and I started hearing that good voice again. You know, the voice from childhood, God's voice, your conscience, always telling you to be a better person, do the right thing. It's always within you. You see, for me, I had been disconnected from that voice for so long because I was altered on drugs and alcohol and because I had trauma and stress in my life. And I couldn't hear that voice any longer. I was just constantly doing things to numb myself or to seek pleasure. And when I got incarcerated and I got that sobriety under my belt, I started to hear that voice again. I started to feel something turning within me. It was like this passion, this energy. It was incredible. And I remember recognizing that if I had just listened to that voice all those years ago, I wouldn't have been in that cell. And I wouldn't have been a loser. And I wouldn't have got addicted to drugs and alcohol. I probably would have been in college or, in the minor leagues playing baseball, pursuing my dreams. I probably, at that time might have had a family, and I might have done all these cool things and traveled. And I just started going through this list of stuff that would have been more probable had I listened to God's voice, that whisper, that conscience inside my head. And I couldn't go back in time. I couldn't change anything at that point. But I did make a commitment that from that moment forward, I was going to listen to the good voice inside my head and find out where that path went. And over the years, I came to recognize that good voice as God's will being done in my life. And I recognized that it might not always be what I want to do or how I want things to unfold, but God's plan is always bigger and better than our plan. And there's a purpose to your life that you can't always see or understand that will unfold before your eyes if you get on that path and you never stop. And that's what I've done for 13 years, you guys. I listen to God's voice. I trust and believe in that intuition in my conscience. I give my best effort. I face the fears. I plow right through the doubt. I don't worry about being judged. I do everything to the best of my ability. And I've been able to create a really beautiful life for myself, one that I don't have to numb myself from, one that I don't want to check out from, one that I want to be present in and live for as long as I can. You hear people say, oh man, I don't want to live to be that old. Dude, I want to live to be 1,000 fucking years old. When you're in a purpose-driven state, when you're in alignment, when you're in love with the life you're living, you don't ever want it to stop. And if you don't feel that way, it's because you're not living it the right way. But it's possible for you. Now, the first step is I want you to go through this day or this next day coming up and ask yourself consciously as you're making decisions, is this a fear-based decision or a purpose-driven decision? You know your goals. You know who you want to be. You need to now make decisions and take actions every day to slowly evolve into that person. And over time, your whole world will change.